education system and how it is they train the human resource. It meets their needs. Our education system cannot be said to meet our needs because it's predominantly academic.
Very much so. Such that even now, as we are trying to transition to CBC,
yes,
you will find that as grade 3s are doing the exams to go to grade 4 and grade 4s are doing the exams, parents would still ask, so what number were you? And the focus is trying to move away from ranking students in terms of the number that you were in class to saying, what did you score? What did you get? So it's not whether you are number 1, number 2, number 3. It's what did you get? So you find that pressure, because it is so ingrained in us that, it's about ranking. I mean, this one is number 1. This student called Wasonga Alanudoma is number 1.
In the country?
Yes. Simiu Robin Wanjala from Moranga High, number 1. And Alanudoma of Agorosare, number 1 as well, number 2. Well, but there you go.
Well, number 1 in his school.
Yes. Number 2 countrywide. So you want to go with that. So you also want to go back into your school and ask, so what did you get? What number were you in the school?
Those questions are asked.
Yes, you got an A, fine. Today. There were 10 A's. So were you the top A or were you the 9th A?
You know these chat forums that people have, you will find some very studious individual kept somehow hard copies of your performance at Form 4.
Yes.
And they post them and somebody asks, now, why are you presenting this thing now, surely?
Yeah. The entire list.
My friend, and the 9s, because that was 9, is not that you did well, then you feel flat, okay? Plus the 9s that you got. I was asking, well, surely must you post this thing now?
Must you take us back there?
Yes. Now, it means that it is something that doesn't leave our minds. And the same goes with academia. Why do you think, for instance, in disciplines like medicine, you don't get a first-class honors in medicine? You know what that will do? Where it goes that this guy got a pass. Isn't that this guy's not touching me? This guy is not cute. Forget it. So long as you've qualified and you've passed,
you are a doctor.
You are a doctor, end of that story.
Yes.
And you see, it is that lateral thinking that now needs to be applied, I dare say, enforced in the thinking of education. Because so long as you have this, we are putting unnecessary pressure on students.
Yes.
Pressure that won't help them because, it's going to be carried over into adult life. Why do you think people take these shortcuts? You find some grown-up person with a beard and children posing as a standard 8 candidate so that their relative can pass.
Yes.
Okay. Why? It is the pedestal on which we have put performance on.
Let's take a break and ask you that question. Should the Ministry of Education revert to listing the best performing schools in national exams? And we're talking about KCPE, KCSE. Should the ministry go back to that? Where they would tell us the best performing school in last year's KCPE was, or the best performing school in this year's KCSE was. Start ranking schools again? Is that what you'd like to see? Because, judging by what you're sharing on social media yesterday, just going back and showing us which schools are performing well, in fact, giving us the top 100 list on social media, clearly, there are people who still want to see this happen. Do you think this should happen? 0719-012-600, 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. Time for a break. Take a look at the traffic and also the weather forecast for the day. GenerationNextChallenge.com. This is a website that would like you to go and register your children so they can get to connect math to real life. GenerationNextChallenge.com. They participate in the Kenya National Challenge and coins as they learn, certificates, badges and leaderboards, and then they'll be able to participate in the Global Innovation Challenge scholarships. Students are selected for leaderboards also based on their innovative solutions to SDGs. The top 25 students per grade will receive a scholarship for the Global Innovation Challenge. Log on to GenerationNextChallenge.com. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It's time to answer questions that are worthwhile. The Big Quiz Show is here. Register to play from the comfort of your home by SMSing the word JOIN to 23774. Then watch the live show on KTN every Sunday from 8 p.m. where you could have a chance to win a melee. The fastest and most accurate answers are guaranteed to win. The Big Quiz Show, Sundays at 8 p.m. only on KTN.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
For many of us, home is a place where we find our inner peace. A place where we find the most comfort. A place where we recharge. A place where we create laughter and all the good memories. But most importantly, a place where we all belong. At KTN Home, we believe there is something for everyone. So catch all the comedy, telenovelas, Nollywood, music, sporting action, kids shows, documentaries, movies, dramas, and reality shows, all to make you and your family feel right at home. You can also stream live at www.standardmedia.co.ke/KTN Home/live on your favorite device.
Sprinkles back in Nairobi, 17 degrees. It goes to highs of 21 and lows of 16 today. A chance of rain through most parts of today. Light rain in Nyeri at 15, highs of 21 and lows of 15. 15 will be the low in Nakuru. It's cloudy currently at 16, going to highs of 22. Rain showers in Eldoret this morning at 13. That'll be the low as well. Highs of 19. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu, going to highs of 25 today and lows of 18. We'll see the lows of 15 in Kakamega, mostly cloudy at 19 at the moment, highs of 23. We see highs of 30 in Mombasa. Sunny conditions at 26 at the moment. It's sunny in Malindi at 28, highs of 30. Out into Kampala, highs of 24 and lows of 17. It's mostly sunny at 19 and mostly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 23 with highs of 31. We'll see highs of 23 in Johannesburg where it's clear at 10. Mostly clear in Lagos at 26, highs of 32. 32 will also be the high in Kinshasa where it's 23 at the moment and partly cloudy.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Okay, word of caution for those who are headed towards Roiro this morning. Accident this morning and the jam is building up as you're headed in that direction. On the bypass, use the service lane to avoid that. So this is as you enter the Roiro bypass from Nairobi. So that's outbound. Use the service lane at this point because the traffic is piling up quite some. Where else is it piling up? On Mombasa Road still is quite heavy. It's also thumping on the eastern bypass as you're trying to get outbound. Because of that serious traffic that started this morning and it's still going on. Okay, coming off Ngong Road and Langata Road, not too bad. Remember that certain parts of Mombasa Road you still cannot use. There are some that are waterlogged. You'd rather just see and stay where you can see dry land. So Jogo Road entering into the city, you need to also be careful. As you head in that direction, traffic is piling up. Landys Road is also jam-packed as you get into the CBD. It is another Tuesday morning where it's raining and there's traffic all over. Take care. Let's hear if there are alternate routes that you can use in or out of Mombasa Road, for example. Service lanes actually looking good this morning. Use those. Text as well, 40127.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mornings
done right.
Yes,
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The frog came.
Yes. It's gone. It's 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Okay, so, yeah.
Take a sip of the water.
Embrace the frog.
No. Problem is the swallowing bit. So, okay, in 2014, the then Education Cabinet Secretary Jacob Kaimenyi said, we are stopping to rank schools in any examination results, KCPE, KCSE, and gave various reasons. He said, it's because this thing has now been taken to the farthest, to the nth, in terms of the negative side of things. We still, even then, we still see parents talking about, or even teachers, communities talking about the best performing school. Was this the best performing school in our county? Was this the best performing school countrywide? So we're still going back to ranking best students. But then you ask yourself, is it then that the ministry was not following what people really want? Is it that people did not see the problem the ministry was seeing, that they need to adjust? Or did the ministry just do one thing, but they continue ranking schools anyway by giving us the results of the students?
Eric, there was a change that took place. Remember, if you go, again, I have to go back to a time when I'm more comfortable discussing because I was young and alive then. I can remember these things with clarity.
You're old and dead now.
Old and far from dead.
Young and alive then.
You see, this competition and stuff wasn't an issue at a time when if you went to Standard 4, you could get a job with the railways.
Yes.
Standard 7, a better job with the railways or some corporation. Form 2, after KJSC, you could join the bank. Form 4, join the bank as a management trainee. Form 6, I mean, options were there.
Join the World Bank.
Yes. The options were plenty. There was one university, but university was not a big choice as such. It was just one of the choices that one had. And even then, there was the teacher training colleges, there was a P3, P2, P1 training, there was a diploma. These things were,
and
opportunities were awash, and polytechnics. You're more or less spoiled for choice. Now, then, give it a little time, and you suddenly find that the things we took for granted, like the good schools were all government schools. All.
Yeah.
They were all public schools. They were private schools, but they were few and far between. Time changed when private schools came into the game, and they were not just Harambee schools. They were private schools being run for profit but doing well. By the time Professor Kaimenyi came in, he was sitting on a really hot seat where changes had taken place long before he got there. So what he was now doing was actually reacting to a situation that he was now encountering. And it was not an easy situation. And the mindset had continued. Remember, the people who were then in positions like Professor Kaimenyi had gone through this old system that I'm talking about. A generation goes by, and then you have the opportunities are no longer there as they were before. The competition is stiffer. There are more people. The requirements are more. The landscape had changed completely. And it has continued to change in that direction because the thinking of a time gone by has actually not changed. People still think that if you do this, it'll equal 2. And it's equaling a half, and you don't understand why it is a half. So ask yourself the simple question. The Ministry of Education can be spoken of as much as we like, but this is not something that the ministry can tackle on their own. Because you're talking about creating job opportunities, ensuring this Ministry of Education that the courses that we have actually mirror the needs that the country has, and that policies that would ensure that this thing happens actually take place and they're actually not written and shelved, actually implemented. So, we are at a precipice, really. We're at a point where everything has come to a head. That's where we are right now.
If that is the intended outcome, if that is the intended goal, really, that with education, what you essentially will do is that you feed society with individuals then who are able to take up certain jobs or take up certain roles that, would spur the economy on, and then also help in terms of things like self-preservation. Then what you need to do is to start to move or to get rid of things like this ranking system. why I say that is because then parents who then are the custodians of learners at that point will be insisting on a wholesome education in tandem with the educationalists who are working on this. Because if they realize this and they're starting to grasp this by the introduction of things like CBC and that kind of wholesome learning, if they realize this, they cannot do it on their own. They also need then parents, stakeholders, like media, for example, to also steer away from this thing. Because what it does is that you're not focusing on the learning. You're focusing on the achievement in a particular exam or the performance in a particular exam or the performance of a particular school. So somebody may have performed well, but they don't know anything. So understand that there's a big difference between performance and actual knowledge, right? Knowledge that would then take you to do or fulfill a particular role or to enter into a particular job market. So I think there's a lot that's being missed out on. And it would be interesting to see, I got to pull it up, but I read something, be interesting to see that for those who then were able to perform academically and get those high marks, looking at an all-round education, there was something that was missing. There were certain things then that they were not able to do when their focus was just on going to the best school that was ranked and just on performing and getting certain A's. Then there was something else that was missing. So if you're going to go in this direction where the ministry and other educationalists are going towards this wholesome learning, they cannot do it on their own. Where we have a bulk of the other side of the community who is looking at this performance and looking at these schools, they can't. They have to work together.
They sort of confusing line for me, the grey line for me, is when the Ministry of Education says we are not going to rank schools. And in fact, in 2014, when Kaimenyu was releasing the results, he did not even say who was number one. He didn't say. Pressure. Subsequent results, you're given the top 10. Pressure. Okay? It tells you that the community, the society still wants that. But
Exactly.
now, where I was saying the grey line comes for me is still the exam is giving you grades. The exam is telling you scored an A, you scored a B, you scored a B minus, you scored a C. That means you still want to know, how did I fare as compared to my classmates? Yes, they are better in history, I'm better in sciences. They are better in math, I'm better in physics. But overall, there's a mean grade. If I did very well in my sciences and they did very well in their humanities, how do we compare overall? Did I get an A? Did they get an A? Did I get an A minus? Did they get a B? Did I get a B? Did they get an A? That is still there. So if you're still going to rank people and give them the A's and the B's, and then you're still going to have the best performing getting an A of 87.734 and the second one getting an 87.173. If you're still going to get that, then give us a ranking for the schools. Because in the end, you're still playing the same game. Just that one, you're looking at removing the commercial interest, but the schools are still going to come there and tell us, we produced 50 A's, 70 A minuses, and 0 C.
For the individual.
Another school will tell you, we produced 75 A's and 2 C's. There's still a ranking and a competition.
It help? If we're going to be honest and asking a question, how does a ranking help? Fundamentally, how does it help?
As a parent, you know that in this particular school, my child stands a higher chance of performing better.
Moving to the next stage.
Moving to the next stage.
Yes.
In terms of knowledge and in terms of knowledge and a wholesome understanding, which is essentially what many parents on the top would say that this is what they want. Does it have a significant impact on their all-round knowledge?
In very many cases, the schools that perform very well are giving an all-rounded, producing an all-rounded student. So you'll find that the school is actually priding itself in, we produce the 50 A's, and also our students were the best in basketball. Our students performed very well when they were competing in the national level in drama.
Do those things come out?
Yes.
Do they come out?
Yes.
So like now when we see these exams, where do we get that information of how they performed in other things for people to see and
The
understand?
school itself will be
There'll
showing
be individual results. And
The
by
school
the
itself
way,
will be showing.
What
You
I
see,
think is necessary.
Our students are all rounded. They're very good in sports.
So
they're very
now,
good in swimming.
For what I'm saying, for that to happen and for people to really understand that, then I would say if you're going to rank across, but don't just rank and use exam results. Put it all out there. Why am I saying that? Because truly, if that is the case that you're saying, I'm inviting students to come here because they will get an all-rounded education, it shouldn't just be the 87.33, because that's what stares, that's what glares out at everybody right now. Right now it's the numbers.
But do.
Right now it's the numbers. And
Unfortunately,
they're asking the question, how did they perform? And the parameter is the examination.
Unfortunately, at some point you're going to aggregate these things.
But right now, what people are using is the exam. You can't argue with that, CT. It's the exam that
as
they're
an entry
using.
point, as a start of the conversation.
But you see,
It's the start of the conversation. If you hear that your child went to Alliance and Alliance is performing so well,
You're not asking if they did well in basketball. You're asking if they did well in the exam.
but did they have a chance? That's what you ask yourself. Do they have a chance at actually playing basketball in this school?
They did.
Yes, but what I'm saying is the
Then go
thing
to another
that takes
school
people
called-
there is the exam result. That's what they're looking for primarily.
That's
yes,
the number one.
yes,
Exactly.
yes,
We're
it
not
is.
arguing about that. It's the number one. That's what people are looking for.
That's what they're looking for.
But that's what you want for your child.
But that's
Is
not
it you just want them to do well in an exam?
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
You just want them to perform well in an exam.
Look,
Not only.
You can play as much football
The
as you
first thing
want,
that
but
you want.
you would better do well.
Yes.
So you see, it
That's
is
what you
still
want.
performance-based, and that's what I'm saying.
No.
It is still performance-based coming from the point of parents.
No.
Yes, it is.
Your
It-
focus
you
on this
yourself
parent
has
thing.
no. You've just said it.
No.
You
Don't
said
put
it.
words in my mouth,
Hold
please.
on. You said
What
that
did
if
I
the
just say?
education sector is looking towards having an all-rounded performance, they cannot do it alone. They also have to have the buy-in from parents who previously, you said it, who
I didn't say parents. I said other sectors.
parents are involved.
I said policy.
Who previously
Yes.
have just been focused on exam results.
You
They
know,
have to work together.
I'm saying parents are essentially led by the nose, and they lead others by the nose. Because you are a parent. If you could teach your child, you'd educate them at home. You take them to school. You look for this expensive school because you believe this expensive school will provide your child with all the things that you want them to have.
Yep.
That's why you're doing that. So, and at the end of all this, you want this child to be able to move to the next stage. And whether you like it or not, that's why I said aggregate. Their performance, the academic performance, is what is going to take them to the next stage.
It carries higher marks. So
Yes,
they
it
look at,
does.
yes, you do very well. You did.
Yes.
You performed very well. You came from this school that won the national championships in football. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. But what did you score?
You better do well. What I was saying was, and why I brought in the other players in the national sector, well, I'm calling the national sector, is this. You want a situation where it is understood that even if you cannot do well academically, history isn't really your thing, literature isn't really your thing, biology is not your thing, and sports is your thing, it can actually propel you to the next level. Mm-hmm. If metalwork is a thing you really understand more than woodwork, it ought to propel you to the next level. If technical drawing is what you really get, all I'm saying is that the abilities you have should be able to take you somewhere.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be subsumed in this focus that we all seem to be mad about around academia. Because it isn't the only thing. Look at, why don't we move this discussion forward and talk about employment? When you ask for a CV, people want to know, not what you've done, they start with, what degree do you have?
Yep.
Not even qualification, degree. As though the degree is going to work. Okay? And then the conversation you hear nowadays is that, there are these people who have this qualification, but they can't work. And I'm saying, no. You are not actually trained at the university to work. No. You are given knowledge, and the workplace is what's supposed to now teach you how to apply.
To work.
Yes, exactly. So how do you expect somebody who's just left an academic institution to actually know? Well, with teaching, you're expected to know. With medicine, you're expected to. But they give you time to practice so that you can be good at it. The thinking, it sounds as though the parents are pushing the agenda, and they are. But the parents can be molded into changing their thinking. Because parents may have said all they wanted, but the 844 was upon them. They may have said all they wanted, but the CBC system is going to be there. All I'm saying is, the piper here is the government. They're the ones who actually will lead, not just the tune, but whatever chorus that the society is expected to sing.
But now this government is dancing both sides. On the one hand, it's saying we are not ranking schools. On the other hand, it's telling us who the best performing students are and what school they came from.
Yes.
So they are ranking schools.
Of course they are.
Even with CBC, okay, so we're talking about when you go to senior secondary, You'll go to senior secondary based on your...
Believe me, it's performance. It doesn't matter what you do. You're going to end up right there.
So there's some senior secondary schools that will be, science-based. Others will be arts-based. Even for you to get a slot in a certain senior secondary school, it's your performance that will matter.
It does.
So there's still going to be ranking.
But there's a bit...
And it will emerge that this is the best arts school in the country. This is the best sciences school.
Technical school in the country.
In the country.
Good. You've gotten the tweaking. You see, so long as that tweaking is there, then you know that if you're that way inclined, you know where to go.
But
and
it's still ranking.
And it can't... You can't run away from ranking. It is you can't actually run away from it. It is the 360 approach to it. What is the objective? What do you want to achieve by it? And what do you need to put in place so that no one is disadvantaged? At least you minimize, worst case scenario, you minimize the disadvantages completely. Because right now, anyone who's not academically inclined is disadvantaged completely. That's what's apparent right now. And that's what we're saying need not be the case.
Andy Karaba says, what the ministry is currently doing is proper. Education is meant for the development of all students, regardless of school. However, the ministry could generate internal rankings for its purposes, specifically as a way to standardize and reward good school management practices. Make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
So you have your own internal rankings that you're not releasing to the public. So that then you can reward good school management practices. Then the school managers will release those results to show, you see.
Eric, remember schools even had a ranking in their classes. It's a 4-stream school. You have A, B, C, D.
Yes.
Now, D was not the best performing class.
No.
You knew that, okay? I went to a school where when you're in D, 1D, you entered the school within the first month, you sat for an exam in English and maths, okay? English seemed to count. If your performance in English, the whole from one class sat for it, wasn't good, you went to 1D.
Straight.
So you are given extra English, meaning among the things you are taught, there was an additional lesson that you were given so that you could improve on your English. Then you went further with the sciences. There was SSP and there was pure. And the class you're in was determined by whether you had a proficiency. You see, if I just stop my thinking and, my negative thinking, it was clear I am one of those people for whom sciences was a complete maze. This subject called physics. I understood what it meant, the contents of it, to date, are a problem. Okay? You can talk about all. I tried to even memorize some of those, I'm going to call them equations that were supposed to help you understand speed and all those things. To date, I have a problem. Okay? Now, there are those who could understand those equations, but when it came to literature, my friend, they'd ask you, how do you understand these stories?
What is this now?
Now, this guy, okay, so if Julius Caesar said this, so what? Okay? All I'm saying is, the peculiarities that individuals have is something that has to be taken into account. And it has to be taken seriously. And that requires crafting a system that actually doesn't just talk about it, but actually puts it into practice. Now, it costs, but if you really want to move and change away from... Because parents will move away from this thinking when they can see, actually, even if my child doesn't seem to do very well in maths or they still have a future, they will change their thinking. But so long as they understand that overall marks is what determines the future, they're not going to change the way they think.
They'll push for that.
That's what they're going to push for.
Because you want the best for your child.
Everybody wants the best for their child.
Right? So this whole ranking story, so yes, there's no ranking of schools, but there's ranking of students. Why should the education minister tell us the top 15 students? Just give us the overall results. And that's what happened in the first year. And then people were like, so what kind of results are you giving us? What are you telling us? Oh, math, there was an improvement. The mean score of math overall was this compared to last year. English ranking now was better than the girls performed better. People were like,
Eric,
so what?
Eric,
So where is the result?
Eric, let me understand you. Let me understand
so who
you.
did what?
Let me understand you. You're saying that what the ministry should do is just say the results are out. Parents, go to the school that their children went and tell them.
Yes.
So what should they tell us about the results? There was a general improvement in maths. There was a general improvement in history in this school. Don't talk about any region and how they performed or which school or any student. Just say, this is how the country performed in these particular subjects in this particular year. Is
Kaimen-
that what you're suggesting?
Kaimenyi did that.
Eh?
The next year, people were like, we want results. Those things you're telling us.
Actually, it's not even that. We want Kaimenyi out.
We want results. What are you telling us? So who has done what? So how do we know that people start for this KCP and KCSE?
But
If you don't even
also,
say our name, give us a name.
a child's performance, as I said, is not a child's performance.
It's
a
an
parent-
entire community's
an achievement.
Yes.
It's like your son gets an A. That A which you didn't get,
It's bragging rights for you. It's
now
bragging
got it.
rights. And I
Yes.
think that people have just been used to a culture of having this kind of competition. But again, if we're saying that it's essentially harmful to those who would have an opportunity to grow, then I think it needs to be relooked.
In the next hour, let's talk about agri-business, agri-talk, especially looking at animal and animal health. All right, how to eradicate diseases, how to deal with the best and produce the best food for animals, from animals. Kenya's biggest conversation continues into the next hour. We'll be having a conversation with a professor who is also a veterinary doctor, veterinarian. And he'll be helping us to understand this particular conversation. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Coming up at 8 o'clock, we'll be asking you to join us in this conversation in that hour. Good morning. And also, we'll also ask you to call in on 0719 012 600. Time for news with Dennis. It's now 8 a.m.
I'm Dennis. Aseto. The low numbers of girls who sat last year's KCSE in some counties is a cause for concern, and Education CS George Magoha has directed investigations into the matter. Counties of Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, Turkana and Homa Bay counties had high gender disparity during the 2020 Certificate of Secondary Education.
As a matter of fact, in 15 counties, more females enrolled than males. The counties with a high gender disparity in favor of the male include Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, Turkana and Homa Bay. I have also asked the Director of Quality Assurance and Standards to investigate the cause of low female candidates.
Turkana County had the highest percentage of overage candidates, while Bungoma had the highest percentage of underage candidates.
Turkana County had the highest number of overage candidates, while Bungoma County had the highest number of underage candidates. The underage candidates are the ones who are 16 and below. But excuse me, please, they have performed very well, so don't touch them.
Teacher Service Commission boss Nancy Macharia is asking more instructors to take up COVID-19 vaccine. She says 151,494 teachers had been vaccinated as of May 9th. This was achieved despite the fact that most teachers have been on the move either during administration of the examination or during the marking of the exercise.
It is sad to note that so far we have lost 37 secondary school teachers. We do not want to continue losing our teachers. They are very dear to us. So please, whenever you can, we still encourage you to take the jab.
As we continue taking care of our COVID-19 patients, home-based care and isolation accounts for 82,138 of the total recoveries, while various health facilities account for 30,790. At the same time, 12 people have died in the last 24 hours, 1 death occurred within the last 1 month, and 11 deaths reported were discovered during facility record audits. This brings the total number of fatalities to 2,907. The Senate is today expected to take 2 votes on the bill in the second reading and the final one in the third reading stage. But for the vote, Speaker Kenneth Lusaka will make a landmark ruling on whether the lawmakers can change the bill in what may shape the voting pattern. Thursday last week, members of the National Assembly passed the bill with an overwhelming majority after Speaker Justin Muturi earlier ruled out any possibility of Parliament amending the bill. You are warned of intensified rains of more than 30 millimeters in 24 hours over the highlands of west of the Rift Valley, Lake Victoria Basin, the Central Rift Valley, northwest, the southeastern lowlands, and the northeast of Rift Valley, including Nairobi, today. The weatherman says the heavy rainfall is projected to reduce intensity on Thursday. Gikungu said due to the already high water levels in rivers and other water retention areas, the rains might cause flooding over floodplains and other areas that are not well drained. Only 5,000 Congolese have been vaccinated out of a population of nearly 90 million. In the city of Goma, their rollout has just started after numerous delays. There is worrying lack of interest. The low uptake is blamed on false information about the jab being fake or could make one sterile. And Gor Mahia duo Tito Okello of South Sudan and Burundian Jose Ulimwengu are back in the country as Gor prepares for their 15th round of Premier League fixture tomorrow against Wazito. Their return ends speculation that the two were not willing to play for the local champions anymore, with the club Secretary General Sam Ochola reiterating their commitment to the club. That's your Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
All right, still coming in hot and heavy on Mombasa Road. As the traffic looks like diverting into South B is causing a snarl up right around the Bellevue area this morning. As you're trying to use that route to avoid the traffic that is Mombasa Road, you're going to get stuck there, guys, because it's moving very slowly. Minor accident on Enterprise Road, and that's the junction between Enterprise and Dar es Salaam Road. So watch out for that one, guys, as you head in that direction. Not too bad on the main highway, Thika Road. The service lanes is where the traffic is this morning. So try to stick on the main highway. It's going to go slowly, but you'll get to your destination without too much of a headache. The Eastern Bypass is still crazy. Mombasa Road still thumping with traffic, as is right around Ngara getting into the city. As you come out from Westlands, it also is quite thick right around ABC Place. Limuru Road is an absolute mess this morning, coming from the Village Market, also headed outbound as well. So this is where the most of the traffic is coming from, guys. Watch out for it. If you find a good route, please let us know. The Southern Bypass, giving up those good vibes this morning. Use that if you can. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
6 minutes after 8, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the third hour of the show, and we are now live on KTN Home for the next 50 or so minutes. Welcome to our audience who are now watching radio on their TV. CT, today's proverb.
Right. The elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
The elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
No. Just walks.
Doesn't even notice there are thorns.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Isn't even hampered for a second.
There is no thorn big enough. Okay. So let's have a conversation about animal health. And this is...
Speaking of elephants, okay.
Yes, speaking of elephants. But now we're talking about livestock, the animals that we keep for food. Yep. So when it comes to animal health, and this is a part of Agri-talk where we bring in conversations about food security, agribusiness. Animal health is we've talked about livestock in previous conversations. Livestock, what does it mean to rear livestock? What do we keep animals for? For milk, for meat, for others, hides and skin, for horns, for pride, everything. There are very many reasons. And it therefore means that when you have your animals and your livestock with you, you want them to have the best life so that you can get the best out of them. So there are very many diseases that then come in, and there's a whole issue of disease control, and then there's a whole issue of movement of animals. For example, in the country, you need to get a permit to transport animals from one county to another, and there's a reason for that. It's because you want to make sure that you're controlling movement of animals so that you can control spread of diseases. There's also the continuous monitoring of diseases in various counties, in various sub-counties, to know how they're doing. So that you know if, for example, we are in this particular stage, then this is what is happening in this particular area in terms of disease and disease control. Okay? So moves from counties, goes all the way even into countries as well. So, for example, in the region, IGAD countries have a framework on how animals will cross over borders, because they do. We have seen Kenyan animals being arrested in Tanzania because of crossing the borders. But now let's talk about an entire African-wide animal disease control and looking at our resources as a continent. And we bring in an expert. And the man is Professor James Wabasha. He is a veterinarian by training, and he's also a researcher, a development expert in areas of animal health and livestock development. He's practiced clinical and herd production medicine in food animals for over 30 years. He's a trainer. He's authored many publications in animal health and animal health certification. Professor Wabasha currently works as the animal health expert at the African Union Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources, and they're based in Nairobi, Kenya. Professor Wabasha, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you so much.
So let's just start with understanding the African Union Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources. Big name. What does it mean?
The African Union Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources is a technical office of the African Union Commission that is responsible for development of livestock resources in the African continent. This office traces its beginning in 1951, and it was formed to address the problem of a disease that was called cattle freak. In other words, reader pest. This disease was devastating livelihoods, productivity of animals in the early years, and this office was put up to coordinate efforts towards control of this very serious disease that was causing even famines in some countries. So that's the beginning of this office. And since that time, it continues to grow. Initially, it was specifically addressing one disease, but with the time, it grew to deal with other important infectious diseases of livestock. And with the time, it even grew to incorporate other aspects of livestock production, including genetics, feeding, environmental issues, and so on. So,
how were you able to do this? Just looking at the fact that livestock disease is a major issue, communities' livelihoods affected when their livestock are infected and then in most cases die. So what are some of the things that you then were able to do as this office and some of the measures that you were able to then put in place? How exactly did you do this?
Thank you. Thank you for a very, very, very good question. Knowing where we are as an African Union institution, we work very closely with the regional economic communities. And as you know, regional economic communities also work very closely with the African Union member states. So at the seat where we sit, we work with regional economic communities, and they support member states to do the actual field implementation of activities. So the African Union Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources basically deals with coordination, formulation of policy and strategy frameworks that are then translated into actual field activities and programs by the regional economic communities and our member states. So the initiatives that we do coordinate are led by the African Union member states. Yeah, we drive initiatives that are of interest to our member states. So the people in the field are the veterinarian, the livestock officers in our member states.
Do you also have a monitoring mechanism? For example, in 1951, when you've told us the office was established, it was addressing rinderpest because it was a big problem at the point. Have we had other kind of diseases that have spread across borders? And what kind of monitoring mechanisms does your office have?
At the level of the African Union, one of the very important tools that we are using to monitor what is happening in the countries is a tool we call the Animal Resources Information System. So with this tool, we are continuously collecting data, animal health data from member states. We analyze this data and disseminate the same to member states so that they are able to use the data for decision making in terms of which methods, which approaches, where the disease is. So this is an important tool for us to monitor, to have a feel of what is happening in our member states. We have rolled out this particular system to all our member states, and therefore we are able to listen in so to speak, what is happening at the level of the member states.
How does it work? Let's give us an example of Kenya and how Kenya is using the Animal Resources Information System and feeding into the continental platform.
So basically what happens is that disease reporting and disease detection occurs at the lowest level, at the farm level, at the ward level, at the county level. So there we have veterinarians who are responsible for managing data collection, feeding into the system, and these data get to the central level, that is at the level of the Director of Veterinary Services, then who analyzes and then releases the data to the African Union. Once we receive this data, we look at it again, analyze it, make information out of it, and then share out this data and the information. This is very critical because once this information is shared with member states, it's useful because member states are able then to alert also their neighbors on their disease situation, because this is important for transparency. Because transparency is important both for disease control, because no one country is able to manage the diseases alone, and transparency is also important as far as trading is concerned, because our trading partners would want all the time to know the disease situation in our countries to make decisions as to whether to trade with us or not to trade with us.
Something that occurs to me as I'm listening to this, because this sounds like it's how should I put it? A center that should actually enable, if I may refer to it as an industry, the industry of livestock keeping, a key economic factor on this particular continent. Now, the question I want to ask is, where does one place livestock in this on this continent? We talk about our coffee sector, our tea sector. Other people talk about cocoa. Where does livestock fit into this equation?
This is very interesting. Livestock as a resource. And when I talk about livestock, I'm talking about aquatic resources, animals, because aquatic resources are also animals. We are also talking about wildlife as animals, and then the livestock, the classical livestock we are talking about.
Yes.
And if you think of animal resource as a sector, you will be surprised that this is a sector that contributes greatly to the gross domestic product of most of our countries in the continent. In some countries, the GDP contribution of livestock is well above 50%. In most of the countries, we are averaging about 30%. So we are talking about a sector that we need to support if Africa is going to meet the objectives of poverty alleviation, feeding ourselves using nutrition feed, and improving the livelihoods of people who play a critical role in animal resources value chains. Because in addition to providing feed or food, it also creates employment, and also we got other industries related to the sector coming up. For example, milk processing plants, slaughterhouses, people in feed industries, people in pharmaceuticals. So it's a heavy industry in terms of job creation and feeding the population of this continent.
Just a segue from that, Prof. If we're looking at, because I think the question continually comes up. If we're looking at, around the continent and say that there are traditional practices which countries survived on before, livestock agriculture being some of those. How significant an impact really can the keeping of livestock contribute to economies of countries on the continent today? How significant is it that something that cannot be ignored?
You cannot ignore, in African continent, you cannot ignore livestock. As I said, the contribution of livestock to agricultural GDP, you are talking about figures well beyond 50%. So if you have developed the sector, then attention must focus on the development of animal resources sector, and for most of us, the livestock sector. So it's a major contributor, as I said, if you are talking about livelihoods, food and nutrition, employment. For some countries, they depend on export of livestock to buy in cellulose and fats and all this, and clothes and everything. So if you take, for example, countries in the Horn of Africa, some of them, the contribution of livestock to their GDP some of them is almost 80%. So you cannot ignore this important resource if we have to transform the agricultural sector and improve the economies of our country.
Right.
So there is a business case. There is a business case to support livestock.
What would be the call on? What will be the call on governments? Because I'm looking specifically at then what this particular department coming from the AU has done to make sure that you eradicate certain diseases that then pose as threats towards livestock, right? What would be the call on governments if we already know that it's possible to save people from, or rather to save livestock from this infection, and we already know that there's a commercial aspect to it? What will be the call on governments then to make sure that this sector can thrive?
Our governments, our member states have really shown a lot of political commitment as far as the development of agriculture and livestock is concerned. And this is very well articulated in the Agenda 2063 of the Africa We Want, also in the Marabu Comprehensive Agricultural Program, the so-called CADAP. So the political will is there. And if you remember the CADAP program, there was a commitment in Maputo where member states are to spend 10% of their budgets on agriculture. So what I would want to do is to encourage our member states to continue investment in agriculture, because a dollar investment in agriculture has really a huge ripple effect. So I will request member states to continue investing in this important sector.
But then I want to take you on that, Prof. You're saying that there's political commitment. Yes, there's the declaration, there's Maputo, there's everybody. But has it actually translated to practice in terms of looking at the budgetary allocation, looking at the amount of support that member states, let's just look at the regional community countries in the East Africa, the 5 member states, are they putting the money where their mouth is when it comes to livestock production and supporting this sector?
If you look at, there are many competing priorities. If any government, they are there. What we have seen from 2013, when there was that commitment, we have seen enhanced investments in agriculture, and we foresee a situation here with the time we are going to get more and more investments in agriculture in order to realize the benefits from this important sector. I seem to have lost.
Yeah, yeah.
There's something that I'd like to ask you, Professor. Every time one talks about livestock, and one then, I like your definition. You know, you brought in the whole animal kingdom and ensured that even wildlife is included. Now, herein lies the question and the issue. Yeah. Balancing between human habitation and the domesticated livestock and wildlife. It's a debate that doesn't seem to end. What role does this organization play in helping the citizens, the wananchi, the people whose livelihood borders on our relatives, the wildlife, and how do you ensure that this discussion is continued and the balance is maintained?
Yeah, this is an important area where, as an African Union institution, we recognize livestock, as you have put it very correctly. Mostly you find a lot of livestock in dry areas where there is very strong interaction between wildlife and livestock, and therefore competing for resources, be they water, be they feed, be they pasture. And so what we are doing as an African Union institution is to work with member states to promote policies and strategies that promote sustainable coexistence between people living in these areas and the animals and the wildlife. It's a continuous process, but it is an important area that we do address through appropriate policies, strategies, and we also do support programs that support sustainable management of livestock and wildlife in these areas where the interface is so close and animals and livestock interact almost all the time, with consequences on humans, consequences on wildlife, and therefore we need to strike a balance that allows wildlife to have sustainable coexistence with the human population.
Prof, you know you're a researcher in this particular field. You have been on the field before you even sat in that office. You have done a lot of studies in this particular area. We'd like to get a little bit of insights, practical insights on what's happening in terms of animal health in the country and on the continent. Just keep it right here. We'll have a conversation with you after this short break. We want to take a break now at 27 minutes after 8. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. SpiceFM, KTN Home and online. We are speaking with Professor James Wabasha. He is very many things, including a research and development expert on animal health at the AU Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources. Have you logged on to jobs.standardmedia.co.ke lately? Very many jobs have been advertised there. Now, if you log on to jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, you'll find jobs that either are relevant to you, and even if you don't find a job that's relevant to you today, you'll be able to subscribe and get job alerts whenever a job that suits you is advertised. Many of them advertised today. East African Packaging is looking for a sales analyst. Kenya Medical Research Institute is looking for a nursing officer. Senior artist being looked for by the Dutch Limited. Human Resources Management Assistant by Kemri. Very many other jobs. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with Spice FM.
It's 17 degrees and there's a drizzle in Nairobi. Highs of 21 and lows of 16. 16 degrees and light rain in Nyeri and going to highs of 21 and lows of 15. Yes. Cloudy conditions in Nakuru at 16. Highs of 22 and lows of 15. 19 the high and lows of 13 in Eldoret. It's raining as well. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu at 19. Highs of 25 and lows of 18. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kakamega at 19. Highs of 23 and lows of 15. We'll see 30 as the high in Mombasa. It's now raining at 27. 28 and mostly cloudy in Malindi, highs of 30 and lows of 27. Mostly sunny conditions in Kampala at 20, highs of 24 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam is mostly cloudy this morning at 25. It'll go to highs of 30 and lows of 23. At 12 degrees, Johannesburg is sunny. It'll go to highs of 23 and lows of 9. Lagos is mostly clear at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 26. And mostly sunny conditions in Kinshasa for this morning, highs of 32 and lows of 24. All right, still seeing some heavy traffic conditions on Mombasa Road this morning. Headed outbound, not too crazy though. Well, actually, yes, I've lied. It is crazy. Coming from Cabanas towards General Motors. Jogo Road also this morning is a no-go zone. Find an alternate route if you can is the traffic that is the update that we're being given. There's been an accident between a public service vehicle and a small car, and it's causing serious traffic outbound on Jogo Road this morning. That is not getting any better. Thika Road. Very, very serious this morning. Traffic jam, angry drivers hooting everywhere. People are trying to get into the city. It ain't happening, guys. And it's very, very slow. Let's keep an eye out for that. So we're right in the middle of traffic hour now. We need to be careful while trying to find these alternate routes and get where we're going on time and safe. Talk to us. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127. We're trying to keep it moving this morning.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
28 minutes to 9 o'clock. The conversation continues. This is the Situation Room on Spice FM.
Mornings.
Broadcasting online as well. In the Situation Room, this and every weekday morning, you have Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, and C.T. Muga. Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, and C.T. Muga. The conversation we're having now is about animal health and looking at how animal health then impacts human health as well. Having a conversation with Professor James Wabasha. He is a veterinarian by profession, researcher, a development expert. He's worked in very many fields on animal health, clinical areas of animal health, and is currently serving as an animal health expert at the African Union Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources, and they're based in Nairobi, Kenya. We've been talking about the institution and what it does as an arm of the African Union Commission. And now let's talk about the practical areas. There's something that, Prof, you had mentioned, and this is how your office is basically coordinating, gathering and collection of information at the continental level and then sharing that information with the various member states. And you called it the Animal Resources Information System, where you say, for example, in Kenya, you have a system where information is collected at the farm level. Farmers report, that information goes up the ranks in government level up to the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, and then it's shared with your office, and then now you disseminate that as well and share information disclosure sort of with other countries. Now, here is a challenge that I see, and I don't know whether you'll see it as a challenge. For many years, we have seen a reduction in the number of extension service providers at local levels. So with the lack of proper extension services, do you believe that the information that is then collected is actually getting to the national level in a timely manner? And B, is it the correct information that's coming to the government level? So suppose there was a disease outbreak somewhere. Would the national level know as soon as possible that there's a disease outbreak?
Thank you for that question. And it's important for us to address ourselves to that because it's important. Resources are scarce. And one of the strategies our member states are using and ourselves are using, given the constraints you have highlighted, is also to work very closely with the communities. And I think when we start talking about One Health, then you see why working with the stakeholders become important. So one of the strategies we use in order to improve reporting is to try and educate livestock keepers, the communities, on disease recognition, the need to report, why they need to report, what benefits they are going to get, in order to address some of the challenges you have raised. But really, what you have said is right. The numbers are low. Of course, that has an effect on reporting of diseases, but we are managing using other approaches to encourage disease reporting because that's the basis of disease control. Yeah, so it's a challenge, but member states are also using other mechanisms to try and reduce the impact of reduced numbers at the field level, working with the communities.
And then the other issue then would be on diseases that are transmitted from animals to humans. And we talk about zoonotics. We even talk about the diseases that have come from animals through other animals into humans and becoming global pandemics. In the case of Africa, how do we check that we don't see such outbreaks happening?
Yeah, so the basic tool we use as member states, as veterinarians, is a tool we call surveillance, looking for diseases. And I talked about our engagement with the communities, engagement with our field officers. So the tool that we use to detect the occurrence of these diseases, the moment they occur, is surveillance. Mm-hmm. And as we have already said, there are challenges to this. So sometimes you are not able to pick them when they occur, and you pick them very late when they have already gotten into human population. And sometimes use the human cases as the indicators of disease occurrence in the particular occasion. While you well know the source of the disease is the animals. So these are the challenges, but surveillance as a tool is what we use to allow us to detect these animals as soon as they occur. But we have challenges.
Professor, I want to ask, how common is it to actually have diseases existing in animals, wild and domestic, and at the same time existing in human beings?
Did I get your question?
Let me repeat myself. I'm asking, is it common? And if it is, how common is it to have diseases that you actually have in animals, wild and domestic, also being manifested in human beings?
It's very common.
Yes.
It's very common. If we think about the zoonoses, as they are called, these are diseases with their origin in animals. If you revisit what we are calling the emerging diseases, the diseases that are being reported for the first time, if you look at human cases, about 75% of these diseases have origin in animals. So it's a huge problem. Most of these new diseases have their origin in animals. And therefore, that calls upon us as veterinarians and working very closely with the ministries of health, the public health department, to work closely to manage these diseases, because as you see, they belong to the two worlds, the animal world and the human world. And we need to talk to one another in order to have effective and efficient control systems.
Even as you say that, how close is the work then between governments and institutions and then the local farmers who are taking care of these livestock to be able to know really what is going on? Because even as I ask this question, I think about the whole antimicrobial campaigns that have been done. A lot of times livestock are sick. The individual farmer will go to an agrovet and get medication that they know to be right, whereas maybe making the situation worse. So with the information that you've been able to find out, how closely are you working with farmers on the ground who are in close contact with their animals to know what to administer? Is there some kind of universal code of conduct? How does that work?
The issue you have talked about really is a very important issue, because at the late, people have been using the antimicrobials and the development of antimicrobial resistance. It's not sustainable. And therefore, there is very focused global, continental, regional, and national approaches in order to change this kind of approach. And if you look at most of the African Union member states, they have elaborated now the strategies to counter antimicrobial resistance and to have prudent use of antimicrobials. And what we are doing as an African Union institution and as veterinarians is to support this important cause, to educate, create awareness, and to determine the extent of this problem through surveillance. So it's a current effort where member states have really put in a lot of effort. Most of the countries now have elaborated their strategies on how to counter this. And this is important. It proves that there is political commitment to change this scenario. Because at this rate, if we continue using antimicrobials the way we have used them before, is not sustainable. But it's very encouraging that member states have taken it as a priority, and it will definitely has to start with the communities, because that's where antimicrobials are used. Yes, and we are putting in a lot of efforts in educating, creating awareness, and funding programs that do support awareness and surveillance for antimicrobial resistance.
Many communities that rear livestock are very, very much concerned and alert to the health and well-being of their animals. And then there are very many communities in the continent that consume wild animals, as just one of the things that are given. Now, when they're consuming the wild animals, they're not really checking on their disease and how the wild animals are doing. How do you help such communities to monitor the disease transmission among the wild animals? Because you see pictures, and even when you visit other countries, you find wild animals being sold in the market as food. And always the question that lingers in people's minds, especially Kenyans, is, hey, when these people are eating monkeys and such, then what's the chance of them actually getting a disease that's come from the primates onto humans and transmitting that among humans?
Very interesting. The issue of many communities in the continent harvesting or getting their protein portion from wildlife is very prevalent in the continent. And of course, consumption of wildlife will expose them to diseases that are normally affecting wildlife, but with the close contact and the consumption can jump over to humans. Well, it's a huge issue. You cannot sort it out overnight. But what we do is to try and create awareness. You see the cases of Ebola and other issues. So the issue of people consuming wildlife is an issue, but we do support this kind of areas through awareness creation. Because you won't ban this overnight, but you need to create awareness. Just like they talk about the wet market, getting animals to the market, slaughtering them in the market. We know it's associated with issues. So what we do is to try and mitigate the chances of crossover. So it's a process we have to live with for some time, but we need to educate the communities on how to mitigate the risk of getting the spillovers from wildlife and from animals to humans.
Prof, if I may ask, what activities exist on this continent to providing surveillance of diseases that you may find in wild animals? I know there exists one for domestic animals, but wild animals, do we have such a system? And if we do, how does it work?
What we do, the system I talked about earlier, is not very strong. The surveillance is anonymous, is not that not very well developed in most of our countries. But we are receiving reports of surveillance reports from countries. But it's an area that we need to develop further because, as we have talked before, most of these emerging diseases have their origin in wildlife. And you really need to know the situation of these diseases in wildlife if you have to take care of the spillover to domestic animals and to humans. So it's an area we really need to invest more as a continent, because we are a continent where we have a rich wildlife resource, where the issues of zoonosis, the Ebolas and others, the dengue fever, they are common. So it's an area we would encourage veterinarians and the public health sector also to work together to determine the extent, the occurrence, and even the changes occurring of these viruses in the animal population. So there is a gap there, but but we need to think about it more and invest more if we have to be futuristic and avoid future pandemics occurring in our continent.
Let me throw in a controversial one here. Do you think maybe it would be important for governments to constantly review what they've classified as food items? And I say that because of what we know today as classified as food items. A donkey can actually go and be slaughtered in a formal slaughterhouse. A veterinary public health officer will inspect that meat and say this is fit for human consumption, and then it will end up in the butcheries and in the markets. However, very many other wildlife that is being consumed by Kenyans is ending up onto their plates without having gone through an expert eye or an expert inspection. Perhaps if we just classified, look at a country, look at a region and say, in this particular county, people consume this wild animal widely and commonly. So let's also add that into what is classified as food. Say, if you find yourself with this particular animal, you can take it to a butchery, you can bring in a vet who can inspect it and say this is fit for human consumption. Maybe that would reduce the spread of the zoonotics.
That's interesting. Having controlled systems, and I would want to believe even for wildlife that to get into formal markets must undergo some kind of inspection. Yeah. So about the donkey, if it has been classified as food, for some countries, there is a threat of extinction, which is another issue then also that need to be addressed. So there are two balls here or several balls you have to juggle with. Yeah. So you eat and you want to conserve it, given it's important in our communities. So the policies that will come in place will need to balance that. You need to eat, but also you need to keep the donkey alive to serve the other purposes in the community.
That's very true. Prof, let's come back to the issue of the One Health initiative, the One Health approach on the continent, and that's what your office is spearheading. What is it about, and what other institutions are involved in this One Health approach?
Having worked in the area of animal health for quite some time now as an institution and as veterinarians, you realize that to address some of the health issues we are confronted with, the rabies, the anthrax, if you talk about diseases that are always occurring in our countries, it becomes a Herculean task for only one sector to attempt to address them. So this is a situation, therefore, that calls for veterinarians and public health officers to work together in order to deal with these common issues. For example, rabies, a disease of dogs, with huge impacts on the health of dogs.
Yeah.
But again, if you look at vaccination for dogs, the agriculture sector may not prioritize this. Yeah, because you don't look at a dog as having a role in food security. Yeah. So, but again, it's a big public health issue. So you really need, therefore, the two to design programs together, do surveillance together, because it's a problem affecting the two. But if you leave it to one sector, it might be neglected. The same case with the emerging and emerging diseases, the same situation. The animals are the source, but the human beings really are receiving the impact of the disease in terms of health, the economy, and others. So this calls upon us to work as institutions with regional economic communities, with global organizations like the OIE, the Food and Agriculture Organization, the World Health Organization, among other institutions. So several institutions are involved in this very important aspect of health management. Because again, we are calling it One Health, collaboration at the country level.
Right.
But also we need the governance to be correct at the continental and at global level, so that we all focus our energy and vision towards addressing the diseases with zoonotic potential.
Thank you very much, Professor. Professor James Wabasha is a research and development expert on animal health and livestock development with the African Union Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources. Thanks, Prof, for sharing all the knowledge with us this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's for 6 minutes to 9 o'clock. Time for us to take a break and also say goodbye and thank you to our audience on KTN Home. You've been with us since the beginning, the top of the hour. Join us again tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. But the show continues 6 a.m. up to 10 a.m. every weekday morning right here in the Situation Room on SpiceFM 94.4 if you're in Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, Kisumu 102.5, Nakuru is 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, and Malindi 97.7. Keep it right here. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice FM. Nyeri. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
About animal health. So, it's been talked about, it's been said very many times. Kenyan experts who are sitting in these regional continental bodies and even advising other governments on how to roll out programs that would work in benefiting the agricultural sector. Okay? This is one of them, Professor Wabacha. He's worked in the country. He's worked for various regional bodies in the continent. He has advised governments. They have basically done this many, many, many times. Him and others, if they actually just sat together in a room and each shared their experience working for the EAC, for the government of Tanzania, the government of Rwanda, the government of Botswana, the government of whatever, and said, but remember, we were all classmates. And this is what we were doing when we were in school. And these are some of the research papers that we produced. These are some of the papers that we produced in our master's programs, in our PhD programs. We went and implemented them in other countries. Do you feel like sometimes that conversation just gets to a point where it needs more to happen?
Well, I think so. I think that it can't just be at the place of talking. Again, I think we're going back to that whole implementation issue. It always seems to rear its head. That, you can have a conversation about it. We can all come together and say, okay, it's necessary for us to do 1, 2, 3. But then to actually do it and then see that it's done is something totally different. I really do think, even as we're having this conversation, if you look at livestock, if you look like things like and other parts of agriculture, planting, agriculture, things like that, traditional practices, right? However, have such a significant role to play in the current modern economy of this continent. And I think that if we can just embrace it and embrace it properly and say that, are we now applying best practices? Are we using modern technology to make sure that we use the modern to bring the traditional as what could be practiced currently to save economies.
You know, you're really spot on this one. You see, when people talk of science, what you are talking about is a methodology that you use to accumulate data and let this data inform you about what it is that you're actually observing, isn't it? But it's over a year, 2-3 years. Traditional methods are arrived at after centuries, generations. Now, they may not follow what we call traditional methods, but there is a method to it. The scientific method that they use in coming to the conclusions they do is called observation. Okay? They see, and with time, they understand. This is what we need to do. This is perhaps what we need to consider. Perhaps what they may not have an advantage on is, should we say, the broader perspective that publication and other researchers in the same field bring to you. But it cannot be said that the methods are not scientific. They are. And it cannot be said that they don't play an important role. They actually do. They're the bedrock on which you can actually build any of these new things that you're talking about. Yes. And to ignore them is actually to ignore a key foundation. Not a building block here, a foundation on which you can actually work well with whatever it is that you are proposing to do.
Indeed it is. Keep it right here, and thank you very much for all your contribution to all the conversations that we have on our social media platforms. SpiceFM KE, YouTube, SpiceFM KE, Facebook, SpiceFM KE, Instagram, and SpiceFM KE is our channel on YouTube and also on our handle on Twitter. Conversations continue into the fourth hour of the show. Good morning. Keep it right here. Let's first get the news, and then we look at something else that we can talk about. The news with Dennis coming up shortly. It's now 9 a.m. Good morning.
This is the News Hour. I'm Dennis Aseto. Mobile phones impersonation and early exposure to exam materials were among tactics that were used in efforts to cheat during the 2020 KCSE examination. Education CS George Magoa said some students had invented a new way of cheating by scribbling inside their t-shirts and shirts. Results for 287 candidates have been cancelled due to cheating, Magoa said.
We have cancelled results, very few indeed, from only a total of 287 individuals where we had enough proof that they were very cheeky, having been told, and you can see out of the 287, 211 of them had unauthorized material. We have cancelled results, very few indeed, from only a total.
We have vaccinated a total of 917,068 persons against COVID-19 disease countrywide. Of these, 280,876 are aged 58 years and above. The top 5 counties in terms of vaccinations are Nairobi with 277,321 persons vaccinated, Nakuru 63,191, Kiambu 45,599, Uasin Gishu 42,415, and Nyeri with 34,759 persons vaccinated. Counties with the lowest vaccination rate are Wajir, Isiolo, Tana River, Lamu, and Marsabit. Samburu Governor Moses Lenol Kulalu was put to task to explain why his administration did not do competitive bidding in the procurement of COVID-19 items. Appearing before the Senate Health Committee investigating the use of COVID-19 funds, Lenol Kulalu was also hard-pressed to justify the expenditure of 6.48 million shillings from the COVID-19 kitty on non-related activities. According to a special audit report by Auditor General Nasi Gadungu, the county procurement assorted items from Mission for Essential Drugs and Supplies worth 13.75 million shillings through direct procurement. A clash between two rival gangs over the ownership of 100 acres in Rabai, Kilifi County left 5 people seriously injured. The bloody conflict at the Nyika Reserve land marked an escalation of alleged politically instigated land invasion and evictions that have hit parts of the coast in recent days. Still at the coast, and at least 7 people were injured after a knife-wielding gang indiscriminately attacked and robbed locals in Kisumu, Mombasa. UEFA is set to decide tomorrow whether to switch the Champions League final to Wembley from Istanbul because of travel restrictions. European football's governing body met with UK government officials and the Football Association to discuss options for the final. Chelsea face Manchester City in the final on May 29th. Juventus have been told they face expulsion from Serie A if they remain part of the European Super League. The touring club, along with Barcelona and Real Madrid, are yet to withdraw from the proposed breakaway league. Italian Federation President Gabriele Gravina said if Juventus does not respect the rules, they will be out. Juve, Barca and Real continue to be committed to the project and last week defended the involvement in the breakaway league in the face of what they call threats from UEFA. That's your news hour. I'm Dennis Aseto.
All right, the traffic is still piled up on Mombasa Road today. Headed out. Let's look at where it has piled up. Jogger Road, there was an accident there and there's some serious traffic. The traffic on Outer Ring also quite heavy. We're looking at traffic on Thika Road coming in and out of the city. Going towards Roiro, we have some traffic coming into the city from Thika Road. It's actually looking quite crazy. Limuru Road, there's total chaos there. If we're looking then towards the Southern Bypass, you can breathe a sigh of relief because it's not so bad. Headed to the city using that bypass looks much better. All right, so it's still quite hot and heavy even at 9 o'clock. We'll keep an eye on things and see how they open up. It's likely to be heavy morning throughout the week. So I guess we need to be prepared for this one. Plus, the rains are making issues a little bit more sticky. But we're going to have to get through it, aren't we? SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text us. Let us see also where you might be stuck or if you find a good route. 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
9. Very good morning to you and to the fourth hour of the show. CT, today's elephant.
The elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
The elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's unfazed. It's unbothered. It doesn't notice.
No.
It just walks.
It just walks.
Mm.
No.
Because those are not thorns to an elephant.
No. They're not.
Okay. All right. We hear you. Okay. You know, a number of things are set to happen today. One is the governor of Wajir has until end of day today to file a list of 3 witnesses and documents that he seeks to rely on for defense against his impeachment. The 11-member Senate Select Committee probing the impeachment motion has also instructed the County Assembly to submit 3 witnesses and documents in support of the charges against Governor Mohamed Abdi Mohamud. The committee chairman, who's also the Nyamira chairman, Okongo Mogani, yesterday shared a schedule that will culminate in tabling of a report before a special sitting of the Senate on Monday. The committee has set tomorrow and Thursday for trial. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow and Thursday, drama galore. Buy your popcorn today. Clear your schedule. Sit down tomorrow. Watch. Because it's the day that the hearing commences. Tomorrow and Thursday. The governor's lawyers will also cross-examine the witnesses listed by the Assembly. On Thursday, Mahmoud will have the opportunity to defend himself against the charges before he can be cross-examined by the lawyers representing the County Assembly. Lawyer Ndego Njiro, who was representing the County Assembly of Kirinyaga and also the County Assembly of Nairobi, will be representing the, not County Assembly this time, the governor of Wajir. Big thing, right? There's the issue of the votes on the BBI by the senators. That is also scheduled to take place. Yesterday, the ODM leader Raila Odinga held a meeting with politicians accused of fomenting divisions within the party. Those politicians are Siaya Senator James Orengo, Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, and the MP for Arieda, Otiende Amolo. Also present in the meeting was NARC party leader Charity Ngilu, who is the governor of Kitui. Raila said, I had a great chat this morning with Governor Charity Ngilu and Wycliffe Oparanya, together with Senator James Orengo, whom I hosted for brunch. Thanks for dropping by. They just dropped by. Oparanya said Raila reached out and requested for a meeting to discuss party matters. He said he suggested to the ODM leader to invite Orengo for the talks. The meeting was about our party issues, and we have resolved it well. There was speculation of a split. Raila was also concerned about the happenings in the party. He called me and later called Orengo after I suggested that he should also come. He had called to ask me generally about the meeting in Butere before he suggested that we meet. We have agreed to work together. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has been there and we cannot meet frequently, creating space for all manner of speculation. Oparanya revealed that Otiende Amolo joined them much later, explaining why he was absent in the initial photograph shared on social media. He said Amolo's removal from JLAC as ill-informed, saying it was not sanctioned by the party organs.
Huh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Removing Otiende Amolo from the parliamentary committee. Not sanctioned by the party organs.
So
It was
how-
Whose suggestion was it in the first place to
Yeah,
remove
so
him?
then actually,
Some individuals in the party.
I'm more concerned about the outcome. So
Yeah, how did they end up there?
How did he end up being
Out.
expelled? Or
Oparanya says, as the deputy party leader of ODM, I think the wrangles going on in the party are not healthy, and we know very well that there are internal structures that can be used to resolve such issues. But another source says Ngilu is the one who pushed for the meeting between Raila and the three leaders in a bid to reconcile them. It's Ngilu who reached out to Raila and asked him to have a meeting with the leaders. Many things are happening.
ODM kicks out Otiende Amolo from National Assembly's Justice Committee. So now, the ODM party has recommended the removal of Rarieda MP Otiende Amolo from the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly. Ruaraka MP TJ Kajwang will replace Otiende at JLAC, chaired by Kangema MP Muturi Kigano. He's currently the deputy chairman of the JLAC. That was at the time. We have recommended replacing Otiende with TJ Kajwang. We are making changes. This is according to Mr. Mbadi from ODM. So,
have those changes been made?
Yes.
Yes, they have. So how is it not ODM? How is it
done.
not them
It's done
who
and
decided
dusted.
that he was going to be removed from this committee?
Basically, what the deputy party leader is saying is that there are organs of the party that should be making such decisions, and those organs are not the ones that are making those decisions.
So then are we therefore to
They are
assume...
individuals who are making these calls.
Are we therefore to assume that this was made on a whim and then should not be regarded, and then those changes should be reversed?
If you take this argument to its logical conclusion, as City would say, that's where you'd end up. Basically saying that internal democracy is not being observed in ODM. There's some individuals who just wake up and decide, oh, menikasirisha, get out.
Then you can just decide like that.
And you have not followed the structures of the party.
Okay.
It's drama upon drama upon drama upon drama where they clearly know what they're doing. Clearly.
You know, there's a phrase for it. It's called a red herring. Where you actually divert attention by bringing to a discussion something that, again, would be looked at and be considered to be worth discussing and of importance, and yet it has absolutely nothing to do with what is actually happening. The question that I keep asking myself is, who is this drama directed at? Because in my mind, it is clear this is drama. Who is it directed at? Because it isn't directed at members of the ODM party. And why I ask this is the issues that are at the center of this particular drama, the 70 constituencies that are in the BBI and the division of spoils. And the spoils here are these constituencies. So who is being addressed? And why? Why is that person being addressed?
And why now?
Yes, why? What is it that has happened to make this an issue? Because it isn't as though the issue of the 70 constituencies is something that appeared when the BBI got to Parliament. It has always been there.
It's not new.
No.
It was also a negotiation. The whole conversation about where these constituencies will go and how many will go to a particular area, it was a conversation that took place before the BBI collection of signatures began.
And all these individuals who are now involved in this drama were party to those negotiations.
Yes, they were.
Yes.
All of them, including even those that are now coming to speak, frothing in the mouth in the Senate, like the leader of Ford Kenya, Moses Wetangula. They knew. They have all along said BBI is a good thing.
As it is.
As it is. When signatures were being collected, the issue of the 70 constituencies and where they were was very clear. It was in the document. It was not an issue then. Why now? Why at this particular point? Is the constituency drama the issue really? Or is there more?
No. The drama is for a purpose. The drama is directed at certain groups, certain individuals. A message is being sent. I'm simply just not very certain about who the message is to and what this message is the purpose and what it's supposed to convey. That is what I'm still working out in my head. Because everyone involved in this, these are serious politicians.
Yeah.
These aren't just your average garden variety type politicians. No.
It's not newbies in politics.
No.
It is not somebody who you can just wake up and also be used. Because that's the other thing. You cannot use James Orengo to run your own agenda without him completely understanding what exactly is happening. He's not one of those leaders that you can say, you know what, we passed on this message, we unleashed the dogs on the people. James Orengo has grown above dog level. He cannot be.
He's at the level of dog handler.
Yes. A trained one at that. A master dog handler. Today in history, in 1995, a Kisii court hears that Ford Kenya first vice chairman, James Orengo, slighted President Daniel Arap Moi by saying he is a mere passenger when people like Tom Mboya, Oginga Odinga, and Agnes Kothek were in Lancaster House struggling for Kenya's independence. Orengo had said that in 1995. He was the first vice chairman of a national party called Ford Kenya. He was in court on this day in 1995. That man today cannot just come up and start walking around like a madman saying things. To the point where on the same day he goes to Isinya. You know now Isinya has become another place for conversations.
Yes.
He goes to Isinya, to the residence of Kotu Secretary General Francis Atwoli. From there he goes to Raila Odinga's residence. They've been called, they've been summoned, they're coming. He tweets and says, we're discussing various matters of national importance, blah, 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 blah. And the issue of whether we talked about BBI and my concerns about BBI, he doesn't say that. So what, like citizen, what's happening here? What are they playing at?
Yeah, I'm telling you, I think that it's a perfect platform to then air not for them as the party, because I think it's very clear what the position is. I think this is for everybody else who's going to take this thing to a vote, to be honest, to let them know that you still have an option to change things. Because why? If you know, for example, that it will go to the National Assembly, you know that it will go to Parliament, you know that it will go to the Senate, you know that they will debate this, and at the end of the day, you know that it will sail, that there's nothing that you will be able to do to amend this thing at that level. The only way that you can get it to be turned around is when it goes to referendum. So for me, for you to say this and continuously say that you actually feel that there are parts of it that need to be amended, you're not talking to the members of parliament, you're not talking to the executive, you're talking to the people who hold the decision when they go to referendum to say, look, guys, this thing as it is not all right.
Okay.
We're going to pass it because our hands are tied. But
how can your hands be tied when you are at the negotiating table?
But what are they
Are
negotiating?
you saying that the conversation has actually flopped? Because this negotiation is not about, it has not happened in such a public forum as Bombers. It's actually happened behind closed doors in certain residences. The entire BBI conversation has been happening in certain places. And James Orengo has access to all these places. If James Orengo had issues, if Moses Wetangula had issues, if Otiende Amolo had issues with anything here, he could have raised it at any... I mean, in the last 6 months, how many times have you seen Orengo, right, who is a Senate minority leader, photographed in the company of the deputy party leader of Jubilee, David Morade? Somewhere eating nyama, somewhere meeting somewhere in Raila's home. How many times have you seen Orengo being photographed next to his party leader, Raila Odinga, who is a core principle of BBI? If Orengo had issues, he has all the platforms to raise those issues. So when you say that, and I hear what you're saying, I'm just questioning, if indeed Orengo now is sending out a message to the voters, you know what, guys, this document is not good. Is he saying that after exhausting all avenues of discussion, of debate, of negotiation, of raising his concerns about this document? Has he exhausted them?
I think there's also...
Or was his game all along that, Ikitu, I don't like it, but one day I'll...
Yeah, but I think there's also the element of wanting to remain relevant and in the good books of those who would influence you in one way or another moving forward in politics. So you don't want to ruffle too many feathers, but at the same time, you want to drop a message to those who do have a choice when it comes to voting on this thing or not. To say, okay, yeah, guys, actually, you know what? I am on this side trying to do what I need to do to remain here. But in terms of making this decision, you guys are the ones. And to short of coming out blatantly and saying, please make this decision for us, while I can also protect my turf, this is it. That there are certain places where this information is fed. How do you tell us 1 week that somebody's being kicked out because they're asking for something to be changed? And 7 days later, you tell us, actually, you know what? This individual should not have actually been removed. It was not the party position. What are you doing? What really are we looking at here? So I think it's really the dropping of information. And for everybody else, it's playing to the gallery. For everybody else who is watching, it's like, okay, hold on a minute. Perhaps we do have a decision that can be made here when it comes to this thing. And when it comes to referendum, perhaps we should hear this message that's being put out there and say, we're not passing this thing.
In our history, since when have such maneuvers ended up influencing what people are going to do? What I'm asking is, what really influences the votes of our populace?
Political influencers.
Yes, exactly. And there aren't that many. In this country, you actually know. Because you can even categorize them by regions. So something else that comes to mind is looking at what's happening on the political landscape and seeking to own a narrative. You know full well there are people who probably raise questions about this issue, the people who brought it up, the people who are uncomfortable with it. So instead of letting them bring it up, you bring it up. So it is you who's discussing it. And in discussing it, you are the one who determines the direction in which that discussion will take.
Or the fact that it will not move at all.
Yes.
We talked about it.
Yes, because...
And you've seen nothing happen.
If you are in charge of that narrative, even when somebody else comes in, what will be the optics? This person has joined the narrative that so-and-so is the one who has begun. Okay? Now, I am not trying to water down what Ndu is saying, because yes, the voter is being spoken to. But knowing our politics, the person who's actually being spoken to are individuals. Remember, if you look at the BBI and the discussions around it, who is going to be president after Uhuru? That's the discussion. And the debate seems to be, One Alliance seem to have a say on the matter, and they feel they would be in a position to present a possible candidate. The BBI has what they think they want to say. And I'm certain there are other voices that are also thinking the same, again, in Uhuru's backyard. And there are people who've come up and said, you know something. And then there is the deputy president and his wing. So this is something that requires clarity from this perspective. You cannot be a president in this country without a coalition. Not possible. There has to be a coalition. You have to have people who control, who have a voting majority in certain regions supporting you for you to be president. So If, for instance, a region that you may want to partner with are already beefing and saying, how is it that some people are getting more constituencies than others? I mean, if we're going to support you, should we also not get a constituency? Or should we not get 2 or 3 constituencies? And it has come up. Western Kenya has brought it up. The coast has brought it up.
Nyanza.
And these are areas that support where the former Prime Minister has received a lot of support. It is because of that reason that I'm saying that perhaps it is the consideration that this is a narrative that already is out there. So instead of letting it just develop its own life and move in the direction it wants, let us be the ones who are controlling it and determining how it moves.
So what's the game plan then? The narrative got out there and it caught you unawares?
No.
And now you're catching up with it? Or did you know? Was it
from the very beginning?
Was
did
it
you have
designed
issues?
to be there?
Yeah.
No, you knew it was going to raise an issue. But there is letting everybody talk about it and then you presenting yourself as the key protagonist. Because this discussion, it appears that the issue is actually coming from within the party of the former of ODM. That's where it seems to be coming from. It becomes a different discussion if somebody else who is not in ODM had brought it up.
Does it build the bridges or does it just break up the bridges?
From a political perspective, the question you want to ask yourself is not, I wouldn't even look at it as building bridges. I would look at it as the drama that we can expect from our politicians and our politics every time you have an election around the corner. Remember, go back to the time when we only had one party. And then go to the point where at Kasarani, I've told this story before and I like telling it because it's a story that actually gives me a very clear insight into how good political thinkers operate. And the issue was, should we have multi-party or should we not? And KANU, in its might and glory, were at Kasarani. And there was the issue of, should we have multi-partyism or not? Speaker after speaker after speaker after speaker after speaker spoke about the might and the splendor and the wonderfulness of KANU and how it is the father and the mother and the auntie and the uncle and the entire clan
supports KANU.
And how it is that KANU is this and the other and everything positive. And you know where the clincher came in was when President Moi stood up and said, do something, folks. I really like what you're saying. Of course, this is me paraphrasing. That's not what he said.
No.
But all said and done, you know what? This multipartyism is not a bad thing.
Let's just have it.
Let's have it. Now, there was pin drop silence for something around 30 seconds. And then what happened? Now, this is what actually puts a smile on my face. People stood up and then supported that notion with even more vigor than they had supported KANU. Now, are you telling me that when people went to that meeting, they did not know what the outcome was going to be? There are those who argue that the president was known to keep things close to his chest. Or are we saying that entire thing was choreographed, or there were some people who were caught off guard? They didn't think that Moi was going to actually agree to multipartyism. And then when he did, they immediately jumped on the bandwagon. It is this virtuoso act that I'm referring to where politicians are concerned. And you shouldn't be fooled by it. Just because someone has one position, do not assume that position is cast in concrete. It is just a position for that particular day, and it can change. And it can change in the twinkling of an eye, so to speak.
Is all of this? I don't know. Yes, that people are being spoken to. But I think that there's several categories of people being spoken to here. And I think that if you look at the inner workings of this party and what they've stood for in the past, and kind of like the beliefs that they've had, regardless of handshake and building bridges or what, there's still a message that they're trying to send to people. But because they're in this brotherly camaraderie right now, there's certain things they cannot overtly say. And they're going to find another way to say them. And I think this is one of those. I really think that there's a message that they're passing to themselves as a party. There's messages that are being passed from one individual to the next. There are messages that are being passed for future political expediency. And then there's a message that's being passed to the people, you and me, who are being told, hold on, guys. Actually, because of where we are, we can't outrightly bash this thing. But we're imploring that you do.
You know, history provides us a very good platform to understand these things. There was a debate in which the former president, Donald Trump, had with Hillary Clinton. Now, prior to that, Donald Trump, in his customary fashion, tweeted. Now, these are people who both want to be presidents, and each wants to show that they are better at being president than anything else. Now, the heart of the matter in many of these American debates has to be the American people and who will best look after their interest. But there's a tweet that I want to read that was attributed to the former president, and it falls into that category of what I was referring to as red herrings. Okay? You look at what Hillary Clinton represented. This is what is attributed to Donald Trump. Yes, I'm very embarrassed by it. I hate it. But it's this locker room talk, and it's one of those things. And then he goes to say, I will knock out ISIS. Okay? We are going to defeat ISIS. ISIS happened a number of years ago in a vacuum that was left because of bad judgment. And I will tell you, I will take care of ISIS. Now, there are many other statements that Donald Trump made. And it was with reference to what he was going to do as the president. Now, let's look at history. Did ISIS come to an end because of the presidency? The answer is no, it didn't. But was it important at that particular point to show? Because his predecessor, Barack Obama, had actually managed to do something that hadn't been done before. He had managed to eliminate Osama bin Laden. Okay? So, as president, or wanting to be president, what then do? You look for a narrative that will present you as somebody who can...
I'm also going to be a hero.
I'm not just going to be this fly in the wall type of president.
Yeah.
I'm going to
be a hero.
I'm going to slay the dragon.
That's true.
Yes.
When Obama was campaigning, and trying now to succeed George W. Bush, was saying two things. One, I'm going to close down Guantanamo Bay. And two, I'm going to pull out our troops out of Afghanistan.
Didn't happen.
You know? It's wanting to show, I'm the one, I hear there's a lot of concern. Our young boys and girls are dying in this war, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. I am going to bring them home. There's been great concern about our human rights record with Guantanamo Bay. I am going to end it by closing that camp. Position yourself. Same thing with Donald Trump, like you're saying. Okay, so what is my war going to be? What's my victory going to be? What is it that I'm going to use to show that we are great globally? I'm going to eliminate that little ragtag militia that calls itself ISIS. Where? My friend. 9:30, let's take a break. The conversation continues. We'd like to hear from you. What do you read from all these back and forth? Within ODM, within the opposition party, so is it a go for BBI? Is it not a go for BBI? Is it good? Is it creating constituencies that are favoring one region and therefore it's a bad document? Or is it just a ploy or a red herring, like City is saying, the dead cat strategy? Is it what Brian calls a shock opera? It's just a distraction, keeping us away from, pulling our attention away from something as politicians do something on the other side. Let's hear from you, 0719-012-600, after we get the traffic updates and the weather forecast for the rest of the day. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me, what channel is SpiceFM?
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
you.
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
All right,
Spice
so
up
the sun
your
is trying
life.
to peek through those clouds in Nairobi this morning. It's still raining in some parts, highs of 21 and lows of 16. Light rain in Nyeri at 17, highs of 21 and lows of 15. 22 will be the high in Nakuru today. It's cloudy at 18. 17 and rain showers in Eldoret, highs of 19 and lows of 13. 25 will be the high in Kisumu. Mostly cloudy conditions right now at 22. It's 22 in Kakamega and mostly cloudy, highs of 23 and lows of 15. 28 light rain in Mombasa. 30 the high and lows of 25. We'll also see 30 as highs in Malindi, partly sunny at 28 right now. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kampala at 20. It'll go to highs of 24 and lows of 17. It's mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 23. 23 will be the high recorded in Johannesburg. It's sunny at 15. It'll come down to lows of 9. Partly sunny conditions in Lagos at 26, highs of 32 and lows of 26. 24 will be the low where it is partly sunny right now, going to highs of 32 in Kinshasa. We're looking out into Beijing where it's sunny at 23. Highs will be 25 going into early evening. Partly sunny conditions in Paris at 10, highs of 17 and lows of 8. 10 degrees and mostly sunny in London, highs of 16 and lows of 9. And coming into early Tuesday morning in New York, it's clear at 12. It'll go to highs of 19 and lows of 8.
Spice up your life.
Yeah, so these heavy rains are going to decrease by Thursday, according to the Met, but we'll just have to wait and see. For now, it looks like there's still going to be heavy traffic on our roads between now and then. And it's still quite heavy inbound on Mombasa Road, especially around the Maradaima Junction because of that flooding that is there. If you're driving when it's still dark, please be very careful on Mombasa Road because some of that signage is not clear. And we have a lot of accidents like what we witnessed yesterday. Limuru Road is still a mess, as is Jogo Road today. Absolutely crazy. The Southern Bypass and the Red Hill Link Road are actually offering up good solutions for traffic this morning. Please use those. Use the service lanes on Thika Road. They will help quite some. And the star of the roads is Wangari Maathai Road this morning. It'll help you get into the city centre quicker than sticking to Ngara and then going on towards the Globe Cinema overpass. Okay? All right. Let's see what it looks like through the rest of the day. Talk to us. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. You can text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
24 to 10. So what do you read? This supposed fallout between ODM leader Raila Odinga and one of his erstwhile lieutenants, one of his most, the closest lieutenants, Siaya Senator James Orengo. So let's just look at who these people are. James Orengo, in 2002, vied for presidency. James Orengo had been an MP since 1982. Vied for the presidency. Then joined ranks with Raila. Then they've worked together. In 2007, 2008, Orengo was among those negotiating on behalf of Raila. He joined the cabinet. He's been there, right there, even in the issue of implementing the handshake and what is required. Orengo has been working very closely with Raila in the handshake era on the BBI, on the conversations around the BBI, on what's required for the BBI. He's been up there. Suddenly, when a bill has gone through county assemblies and then comes to Parliament, having been passed overwhelmingly in the county assemblies, it comes to a committee where James Orengo is co-chairing and he now raises issues of no, this issue of constituencies. And the conversation shifts back to the focus on the constituencies, the 70 constituencies and where they're going. And now you hear other people coming to talk about those constituencies, where they're going. Some certain regions seem to be benefiting more than other regions in this constituency issue. It becomes a voting issue when Kimani Ngunjiri, an MP who is allied to William Ruto, who has talked vocally against BBI, votes yes for the BBI, and he comes out later to justify his vote and says, you know what? This is giving very many new constituencies to my brothers in central Kenya. Why would I vote no? And then how would I go and campaign for Ruto in those constituencies, in those areas, if I voted no for them gaining new constituencies? It has become a whole issue of Mount Kenya is getting the constituencies. It has moved from everything else. That same issue of constituencies was actually spearheaded by the president himself when he was going around campaigning for the BBI and saying, look, there are some constituencies that are now going to be split, and they'll now get more in terms of bursary allocation. So children in these areas that have been receiving a shilling for bursary when others are getting 10 bob and now stand a chance of getting at least 7 bob for bursary. President's message, championing BBI and saying it's bringing the constituencies. That conversation is now being used to fight the whole campaign that the president had stuck on. My theory, my conspiracy theory in this, Raila Odinga and James Orengo are reading from the same script on the issue of BBI. Yes, they'd like BBI to pass, but I think this is a game on how voting should happen and how coalitions should be built and how support should be given in the run-up to 2022. It's basically pointing at this particular region of yours. See, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's saying that what you want to leave as a legacy is benefiting your region. Moses Wetangula talking the other day in the Senate and saying there was a fund that came from the World Bank to benefit coffee farmers. And 100% of that farm went to coffee farmers in Mount Kenya, forgetting that there are coffee farmers in other parts of this country. This is a conversation that's happening now. And I think it's a conversation that's trying to force a certain conversation on how should Mount Kenya think ahead of 2022 as a voting bloc. You either consider talking to us or we spoil this whole thing. One, you come together as a region. So far, you appear to be split. There are those that are thinking William Ruto. There are those that are thinking whichever side Uhuru Kenyatta takes them. But if you face a common enemy where everybody is talking about you guys gaining, then you're likely to come together as one and speak with one voice. And once you start speaking with one voice, then you shall be shown a direction to take, which will be easier to consolidate the Mount Kenya voting bloc. My conspiracy theories. This is an entire game designed and targeting a voting bloc.
So there is no infighting in ODM.
Absolutely none.
Akuna, nothing. No fighting, saying, suddenly this is what is going to split you apart. Where there had been presented so many occasions that would have split this thing right through. It didn't happen. Then this one, for something that had already been predetermined, that's what's going to come and split you apart. I don't buy it.
But then let me ask the question then again, Eric. So if we're talking about a split, the existence of it, the imagination of it, then is there then really a split in the voting bloc that is Mount Kenya?
There is a perception of a voting split.
Mm-hmm. There's a perception.
There's a perception. Now, you don't want to test that perception at the ballot. At the ballot. You want to make sure that there is no perception. You get to the ballot with a surety that you people are speaking with one voice. In 2013, they seemed to speak with one voice. In 2007, seemed to speak with one voice. 2017 seemed to speak with one voice. Create an external enemy. You will speak with one voice. Everybody's complaining that you are receiving all the constituencies. And then the conversation comes in, when we are not Kenyans. Look at how much you've been getting anyway. Galvanize, bring them together, one voice. Now, you one voice. The best place that your issues are catered for is this particular box. Put your vote there. That's it. shepherding, corralling. Karanja in Naivasha, good morning.
Good morning, Eric Du and City.
Morning, Karanja.
Morning, sir.
Yes, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yes, let me join this good conversation that you are having. Number one, the guy, the former movement for change, James Orengo, is a pillar of ODM. It's a pillar, one of the pillars of ODM. I do know how a pillar means when you come to the construction of a house.
Yeah.
Number two, I think that this is what we call the political realignment. Number one, Orengo knew very well that if BBI passes, now he must negotiate the position either to become the deputy prime minister or either having a majority. He is now a minority whip, isn't it? So he may be looking for a bigger version. Okay, Eric, I'll be back. I'll be back.
Okay, Karanja. Renson in Gong, good morning.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, it's been a while, Renson.
It's been tough, but I've been listening.
Good stuff.
Well, my contribution is I like your conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And so you are saying these guys have been sent by UK. Can you let my people see what I've done for them or what I'm planning to do for them? So they can toe the line.
That's actually an extension of what I was saying, but yes, I agree.
Yeah.
It's come from the hill.
You complain I've done nothing, then this guy...
let everybody else come and say, look, he has done all this for these people.
Yeah, so I love it.
That's a brilliant one, Ransom.
Well done, okay.
So have a good day, guys.
Thanks. 0719-012-600. What do you make of this supposed split between... Actually, if you think about it that way. So everybody, apart from the people in the president's camp, are saying how the president has worked for Mount Kenya.
Everybody except the center.
Yes. Wetangula is standing up and reminding people about how much money came for coffee went to that region. People have been talking about all these roads that you're doing in that region. People are talking about this tea in that region. Now constituencies, that region. Surely. How can you then say?
How dare you say, when it is patently obvious
to everybody else,
yes,
that he's not worked,
Yeah,
and
but
everybody
you-
from around the country
yes,
is saying
yes.
that he has.
But then herein lies the real issue, okay? Everybody other than those who are the supposed recipient of all these wonderful things, they don't seem to think so. Or at least some of them, many of them don't seem to think so.
Why?
Disappointment is usually a factor of expectation.
Or a prophet is not known in his own country.
More so a president.
So even if he would have done very good things, they reserve this kind of right to bash anything that he's ever done.
Not always.
Or truthfully, that they would have expected he would have gone the extra mile by virtue of the fact that they're from the same
I don't
place.
even think they think it's an extra mile. No.
Because the others who are speaking from around the country believe that he's done for us. There's no way he would have done for us and not done there, but you were expecting that by virtue of the fact that he's from there, it should be accolades, glowing.
Oh, but it's a quid pro quo. We voted for you as a bloc for a reason. We didn't just vote for you because we wanted to vote for you. We voted for you because we expected benefits. And what you're calling benefits, we do not consider those to be adequate benefits.
One more.
One more.
We expected more.
Yes.
But the rider here is because you are from here.
But of course.
Yes.
That
that's
is
it.
why we supported you.
That is why we supported you in the first place.
Yes. And that's
we
why now
expected that
everybody else
the
is being
scratching of
used
the
to
back-
show you,
Yeah.
look at how much you have received. Even with this BBI that you guys are splitting hairs here and there, saying, oh, BBI, tutakura. Look at it. 70 constituencies, and you get the bulk of those constituencies. Munasema nini? Karanja, you're back.
Yes, I'm back, sir.
Uh-huh.
Now the view that was trying to show you is this.
Yes.
Yes, Orengo know very well that he's appear in ODM. And this can be populist, what we call the political rearrangement in ODM. So give me this, I give you this. Give me this, I give you this. Talking about the Onesimus Gujiri, what he did right. Because he went there through the Jubilee party. So he must do what the party does. He is loyalty to the party, isn't it? Because just say the constituents people who gave the mandate to go to the parliament have the say. Because the party here, the party politics, the party rules, they are the one that governs Kimani Gujiri. Now, there is the work for the whip. Who is a whip? Majority whip in parliament. You have to whip every member who was elected for the Jubilee and is sponsored by the Jubilee party. He must whip them to do what the chair there, what the president have said. Another thing is this. We know the people from North Kenya, they are the ones that pay most taxes in this Kenya, for instance. So, it is bad for somebody to say, this tribe, when they are gaining the 70, let me say, three quarter of the new created constituencies, now they are going back to the multi-Kenya people, and the people they have started another thing that they are just jeopardizing around and saying, oh, these shenanigans of giving so many people, so many constituencies in multi-Kenya, this is wrong perception. Even the fact is that these are the people that they pay taxes. A lot of taxes come from multi-Kenya. People from Nokia go to Mombasa, go to Nakuru, go to Eldoret, go to everywhere. Who are the people who are doing businesses? They are people from multi-Kenya, my friend. Go to abroad. People in the they are the ones that they are doing businesses. So it is wrong for anybody to say that people from multi-Kenya, they are benefiting a lot, given the fact that there are people who are now grazing or just sleeping. And they expect batteries. Where do these batteries come from, my friend?
Karaja. There are people who are sleeping and just grazing. Isn't grazing a productive activity? There are people who are sleeping.
Yes, let me say. Look at the pastoralist community.
Apo
what do they do?
No, Karanja, Apo. Eh?
Okay. Let me withdraw and apologize.
Yes,
let me withdraw and apologize.
Accepted.
But the fact is that people who pay taxes, we know who they are, isn't it?
Yes, across the country. They are people in the entire part of the republic. Anyway, so Karanja, taking you back to the issue that you're saying, you see here as if Orengo is negotiating for some position in the next government. So, is he doing that against Raila or is he doing that with Raila's backing?
He is doing that. He is negotiating. The guy is negotiating to have a bigger seat in ODM. This is because we cannot make a cake. After the cake is ready, now then you want to kick me back. You want to kick me out. Isn't it?
Okay.
So I want a bigger cake.
Okay.
You remember during the formation of the URP and the TNA, what they did? They put the cake on the table, and they say, you have the Interior Cabinet Secretary, you have the financial CS here, you have this, isn't it? You dismantle the cake according to what you want. Okay. So I think Korego is right. This guy, he's a senior counsel. He knows what is happening in the ODM. So he has to put his links right before they go for the voting. Because if they go for the voting in Senate and the BBI passes, the game is over. So he has to do it before.
So he's playing these cards.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Karanja. Thank you very much. Lydia in Nakuru, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Lydia?
Masiku.
Salama kabisa, Lydia. Uko mzima?
Sana. Now, hii story ya kama unipe nikupe hii yani tuseme, let's say for example were they going for election in Mount Kenya or what was happening?
Why?
Because you can go there and campaign. And now some of the people, even they don't know what is BBI. We need to know everything that we are supposed to know. Now, what I'm saying is that even when you go there, you're supposed to know what is happening there. Don't go and then campaign, and yet you don't know what is happening there.
Lydia, let me ask you a question. In your opinion, what do you think is happening?
Now, well, what I think is happening, okay, it is not bad to go for the campaign.
Yes.
Now, actually, the problem is now, in fact, do they even know this disease is still on? Because it has really affected people. And yet people are still going for the campaign. Mara sijui ni PPI, mara sijui. People should relax first and then
focus on the important part.
Yeah.
So they're basically distracting you from what should be important, the conversation that we should be having as a country.
Yeah.
They are taking us away from that conversation with this whole drama.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now people should relax first. Kila mtu aliambiwa atulie ili hii ugonjwa iweze nayo kutulia. But people ili nchi hii yetu iweze kuendelea mbele. You see, the economy is very down. It is down.
Yeah. Thank you.
Down.
Thank
and
you,
people
Lydia.
are still suffering. And yet people are still, wacha niende campaign huko, nitasaidiwa huko.
Thank you very much, Lydia. 0719-012-600. What do you make of what's happening, this whole Orengo-Raila fallout? So yesterday, the Deputy Minority Leader in the Senate, James Orengo, was hosted by the party leader, Raila Odinga. Also present were the Deputy Party Leader of ODM, Wycliffe Oparanya, the Governor of Kakamega County, and also present was Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu. So there are on some accounts, it was Ngilu who called Raila, who told Raila, you know what's happening in your party? Let me mediate. Let's bring them together. I'll talk to them. So they were hosted. On some other accounts, according to Oparanya, Raila called Oparanya. And Oparanya said, you know what? Let's call Orengo. Maybe Ngilu, according to Oparanya, just passed by. He was not aware that Ngilu was going to come. But the whole point is that there was a conversation yesterday between these national leaders, despite the whole fallout, despite, Orengo standing on the floor of the Senate last week and saying, whatever, I cannot be cowed. You cannot intimidate me into voting this way or that way.
Compromise my principles.
My conscience is very clear. Malcolm in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay. I'll have to add something. May seem a little bit kind of different from what has been argued about. But my point is, just an example. When a wife and a husband are having kind of a problem, they solve it in the bedroom. Ndio watoto wasijue is like tukienda kule kwa watoto ama tukienda kule nje, don't show that you and I are not together. So they try to hide it in the bedroom. So when they go to the bedroom is when they argue, like, baby, umenifanyia hapa hivi na hivi, lakini sijapendelea. So the thing is, the ODM, I can't deny that in one party, kuna vipengele ambavyo vyaweza kuwa si sawa kwenye mkatiba, lakini jukumu kwamba the main role was kind of to roll out the opposition. And the opposition at this time, actually, it was the deputy president. He was against the BBI, while the president and the Raila, they were for the BBI. So the thing is, they are joined together like, let's kind of join the BBI so that we may pull it out, to pull the vice president out, of which they succeeded. Now, after they succeeded, like when there's having an issue in the BBI, solve it other and in the ground, in the bedroom. So now at the moment when they're discussing actually now exactly what is the BBI, you may find that even some of them, they were voting for the BBI to pass yes, but they didn't know what was inside. But now the BBI has passed. The vice president has been kind of losing. So they're now, okay, let's now see the BBI, what is inside, what is missing, what is not missing, what is good, what is not good.
Okay.
Now they're discussing now into the bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
That's a big analysis. Thank you very much, Malcolm.
Thank you. Enjoy your day, please.
Asante sana. Conversation comes to an end today. We have more conversations tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll invite the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, Farida Karone. This whole platform that CT you've been asking yourself and saying, I have very many questions. She'll be here. You'll ask her one-on-one. All the concerns. And she'd like you also to ask all the questions that you would like to get answers on the matter of Arthisasa, the new land information management system. Any questions that you have, you can post them on our social media, and then the CS will be responding to them tomorrow. So let's conclude with the day's proverb, CT.
Right. The elephant does not limp when walking on thorns. The thorn certainly limps when it's walked on. But the elephant, on the other hand, doesn't even notice it's walking on thorns.
It doesn't, huh?
No. The thorn is only a thorn to those who aren't elephants. Smaller creatures with more tender footing, you will know a thorn is a thorn.
Yeah.
The elephant, a thorn
You're
is
not.
No, it's not a thorn.
Thank you for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Music until 11, and then Sugar and Spice. Yolanda and DJ Absolute will be here. And thereafter, music and more music. Good morning. This is